Hi, everyone.
Hey, Kay. Steve, how are you?
Present and accounted for.
You have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, remarkably. We have two new grandchildren, 4 and 5 months old, who made
Oh,
their
wow.
appearance.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was fine.
Something new and different about
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, huh? Great.
Yeah.
Well,
So
we
it's
had a college student who appeared, so that was nice.
Oh, that's great.
How many?
We only have one of one.
Oh,
So
And
it's
it's his
6:30.
freshman year, so it's nice to have him back. I'm sorry, Kay.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
So has he gone back already?
Yeah, he got back on a flight yesterday,
Yeah,
but he's back home in 2 weeks, so.
great.
a flight to Cambridge or further?
University of Chicago, so
Oh.
to Chicago.
Yeah, that's a fun place. It used to be anyway, 40, 50 years ago.
Still a fun place.
Well, should we get started, everyone?
Yes, I am just about home, so I may lose you for a minute or two, but I'll be here.
All right, let's do the roll call before we lose you, John. We're starting the meeting at 6:31. Kay Peterson, Chair, present.
Stephen Kruskow, member, present.
And John Quackenbush, member, present.
Great. So, we have time for citizen comments, but I don't see anyone who's here as a citizen, so we'll skip that. Our next meeting will be January 13th. And why not the 6th? Is there a problem with the 6th?
Yes, I'll
Okay.
be out of town.
Okay. So the 13th is fine with me. How about you, John?
I believe that's fine with me as well.
And Jason, obviously good for you.
Yep, that works.
All right. And Suzanne, you'll be around?
I'll be around.
Hello.
Hello.
So we have Artie here, and maybe we should see what he wants, what item he's here for, and because we don't have to make him sit through our discussion of our past minutes, unless you want to, Artie.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna be fun, but I'd rather skip it if I can.
Okay. So what item on the agenda are you here for?
So I am in front of you. At my request, I wanted Jason to put us on the schedule for a project on number 88 Pine Street in Dover. If it's okay for the board, can I share the screen so I can explain what it is that we're doing over there?
Jason, are you fine with him going ahead?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yes.
So this is a picture from the internet, as far as the Google Map, similar to Google Map is Bing Maps, I guess. And what I wanted to show to you guys is, as you can see in here, we've got Pine Street. We've got a driveway that goes into 88 Pine Street. On the left-hand side, there is the garage, and there's the main building, and it's got a well right next to it. What we are proposing, so what's happening is that the well is not producing sufficient water for the house, so the owner hired us to do the paperwork, but as part of the process is that we need to get a variance from you guys because of the site construction restrictions. So I'll share another screen with you now. Um, let me see. Can you see my screen as far as the computer? I made it black so it's easier to see.
Be enlarged if
Yes.
possible.
Can you see it? Okay, so I'll make it larger. That way we can zoom in a little bit more. So what's happening right now is that this is the existing house. We've got the existing house. There is a septic tank, a pump chamber. There is the driveway. There are retaining walls between the driveway and the house. And we've got a brook on the side of the house. The septic system is located near Pine Street. So they put a pipe going under the driveway to a manhole to the septic field on the corner up in here. The existing well is located right on this corner. You see how I put a note in here saying to be abandoned per Board of Health regs? So this is where we got the existing well. There is a pipe that goes from the well to this bunker where the pumps are, and from here goes into the house. Because the well is not producing enough water, the homeowners wanted to move ahead and propose a new well to be put on the ground. Because we are close to the wetlands, we had the wetlands specialist come and put the wetlands flags. So this represents the top of bank and the wetland line, and the brook keeps on going further down. There is more wetlands on the left-hand side in here. There is another shed. Then as you go to this side, the wetlands keep on continuing this way. And there is no way to go through the garage and the wetlands because there are a couple of trees. So having to go around, it's next to impossible. So the only logical solution that we came up in consultation with the well drillers was that to propose the well near the driveway in here. However, the issue that we are running into is Board of Health under Chapter 233(7) letter F requires that we need to ask for a variance if it is that we're going to be less than 25 feet from the brook or from the wetlands. Now, we are not 25 feet, but we're going to be 14. There are restrictions as far as we have to be 5 feet away from the driveway. And because of the snow removal process and wintertime maintenance of the site, this was the most logical place to put it. I do have a picture that I can share with you that shows where that is, but this area in here is all lawn right now. There is one tree that is a 40-inch tree, and we're going to be staying 10 feet away from the side of the tree. And then we are hoping that we'll dig a trench on the side of the driveway and then connect to this main pipe that goes into the bunker without having to redo the driveway. Because this is a variance, we will need to send letters to all the abutters. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't blindside the board and that you guys would be supportive of this before we go too far. I intend on coming on the 13th officially once, because we're going to send letters for conservation and for Board of Health to all the abutters within 300 feet. But having some kind of feedback or a feel from the board would be valuable to us. I did meet with Jason on the site, and he didn't see this as being an issue. But nevertheless, the feel was, let's make sure that everyone is on the same page. Do you want me to show you the picture where the stake is on the ground?
You mean the stakes, the site of the well? The proposed
Yes,
well?
yeah. Just give me 1 second.
While you're pulling it up, what are your plans for the old well once the new well is functioning?
That's going to be abandoned. The old we're going to abandon the old well because it's too close to the new well that we're putting in. Can you see the
Right.
stake on the ground?
Yep.
Can you see it, guys? So this is where we put the stake. And the idea would
Yes.
be, we want it far enough so that when the snow plow comes on the winter, they don't go and hit the well. But at the same time, we didn't want it to go too close to the tree or too close to the wetlands. So the best solution that we came up with was to be like 14 feet away from the brook. This in here is the edge of the brook or the wetlands, which we would be 14 feet. I would like to go to the conservation and say that the Board of Health is okay with our solution before, you know, they go too far on it. So that's the reason of me being here in front of you tonight. And we wanted to make sure that the 13th was a firm date. And so basically that's the reason of me being here. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, or if you want me to show the plan again, I'd be happy to do that.
So why is it that, there's space on the other side of the driveway, right? There's actually, it looks like a lot of lawn, but that I assume is difficult for the well because of the access into that bunker that you described. Is that?
So what's happening is that there is a dug well currently. So there is a dug well, and then next to it, let me share the screen so that you guys, I'm better with a plan. I hope you don't mind. So this is where you see the retaining walls in here.
Yeah,
So what's happening is that currently the existing well is on the edge of the driveway. You see it?
yeah,
Now, we cannot drill too close to this well. Originally, we were thinking about drilling like 10 feet away this way, going further away and drill it where the word well is in here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but so somewhere in here, we were thinking originally to try to put it in here. But the well drillers did not like that idea because the problem is when they drill, and because there is void at the other side, as they drill, the water will be coming up on the hole where the existing well is. So they were hesitant on allowing us to be within this radius in here. So because we couldn't put it anywhere near this area, we ended up putting it at the other side of the tree. We can't go too close to the wetlands because we are already at 14. The minimum from the asphalt to the well is 5 feet. So we stayed 7 feet, but no matter 7 feet or 5 feet, you still are less than 25. So there is no possible way that we can put the well somewhere in here and be 25 feet away from the wetlands or from the brook. Now, to go out this other side in here, there are trees in between the garage and the wetland area in here, so you cannot physically come with a well rig to go through in here because you end up having to cut trees.
I see.
So physically, it's not possible to drive through this way to try to access this area in here. And the only possible corner that we have is in here. The ground, we have shown the topography because we cannot go any further up this way. Again, conservation, one of the things that they're going to be looking for is, can you stay further away? And the answer is, it's not possible physically to, without making it a monumental task as far as ripping down this retaining walls in here in order to get access. And the requirement is that, you know, you have to have permanent access to the well. So once you put it on the back here, you got to be able to service it. So on the ground, the most logical place to put it was in here without having to make it a project.
So, so what about,
Yep.
on the, you see where your cursor is now? If you were to move to the right and somewhat down, near the deck, is there access to the backyard that way?
It goes up in here physically. You cannot get up in here because, as you can see, let me show you. See how you go elevation 91,
I see,
92?
yeah.
Up in here, we're going to be at elevation 96. So this is 4 feet uphill. So as you can see, the only way to go up is you got to go through a set of stairs to go up. This is all lawn, but it's very steep and it's you can't go up the hill. It's, you know, for for a rig to have permanent access, it's too big of a machine to be able to get back there. And
Gotcha.
you still would be close to, it just physically on the ground, it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that's why we proposed what we proposed, thinking that, you know, something got to give. And it seems like this was the best solution. And again, unless the board would like us to do something different, I feel that we have accomplished what needs to be done as far as they're gonna be spending quite some money to put the new well in, trying to reconfigure the retaining walls and trying to give them access on the other side. It's too big of a task. There is more retaining walls going on this side and here, and you're gonna be close to the tanks, so when you are on the ground, it's a no-brainer. That's why I started by showing you the picture on the Googles, because it's pretty confined, even though it's a big area. You see, so we're talking about a big area in here, but you got brook on this side, you've got old wetlands and brook part of, you know, it's all wet down on this other side. And this goes uphill, all this area on the back in here.
Jason, can you speak to, oh, Steve, go ahead.
I imagine Jason has weighed in on this with you, Artie.
Yes, I did meet with Jason on the site, yes.
Jason, can you just talk about our regulation about the proximity to wetlands and the rationale for that?
Yeah, so the regulation says you need to be 25 feet from any wetlands. So I've been out to this site, as already mentioned. And honestly, looking at this plan, it really almost doesn't even do the site justice. It is, you drive down the driveway, you go over, it's a little skinny stretch of driveway that kind of splits the brook area, and you and pull in by the house, and there's really almost no space to move around. So obviously one of the big considerations in a project like this is accessibility. Yes, there's maybe other areas on the site that in a vacuum you could install a well, but at the same time, if you've ever seen one of those well drilling rigs, they're huge. You need to be able to get that sucker down the driveway and get it to where you need to, do your drilling. So, taking everything at the site into consideration, this seems to be the best option.
I get that, but why is it that, what is the risk in putting a well close to wetlands? Is there a risk that the well will be infiltrated by water from the wetlands? I mean, that's what happens with water. It's groundwater, it gets into, it's what.
It's my understanding, that the water is on the surface. So you're talking about the brook, the water runs on the surface of the brook. And then because there is material that doesn't let the water penetrate through the ground, that's why the water keeps on running on the brook. When we're going to be drilling, close to 200 feet into the ground, and that's where the pump is going to be. Some of these regulations that the town of Dover has, they are left through the years. I can give you an example. Town of Dover has a regulation that you cannot have a septic system, or you cannot have any structure within 150 feet of Charles River. And that is a zoning requirement. I am told that before the wetlands protection bylaw came into effect, town of Dover was being proactive, and in order to protect the wetlands, They put a restriction that you couldn't have a septic system or you cannot have a house within 150 feet of the Charles River without asking for a zoning board of appeals approval. Years have gone by. There is a Conservation Commission board that we go in front, but as of today, whenever we do work within 150 feet of Charles River, we still have to go through the motions with the zoning board of appeals. I
But
believe that-
let's talk about the regulation related to a well being within 25 feet of wetlands. Jason, do you know the rationale for us having that regulation?
Do I know the specific purpose?
What
I
is,
mean, it's,
what's the
I wasn't-
concern that?
I
About,
wasn't here for when this regulation was written, so I can't really speak to the specifics. I mean, and this is just opinion, it's not fact. I would tend to agree with Artie where I don't believe there would be any kind of significant risk. We're talking about surface water versus water that's, I don't know, probably 200 to 600 feet minimum in this case. Difference in elevation. So I don't know. In my opinion, it wouldn't make all that much of a difference in this case.
seems reasonable to me. Steve, do you have any?
And what other towns do regarding that regulation of distance? Are we in line with them or are we,
Most other towns don't even have well regulations. So they could just drill the well right in the middle of the wetlands if they wanted to.
Artie, how deep is the existing well?
I believe it's like 75 feet, but don't hold me to it. I believe that's what they have the existing well because they changed the pump, I believe. That's what they did at the time, but the well drillers is Dover pump, and they are saying that you cannot drill the existing well, so you can't physically go on the same casing and try to go deeper. It doesn't make sense because of how the conditions of the well driller determined that doing a fracking on that kind of a well, it's not gonna be good because it's too shallow.
Yeah.
The logic would be try to drill the well 200 feet deep, and it's a standard operations for drilling a well in Dover. I would think that, it's the right way. If anything, we're doing things better, not worse. Even the existing well is close to the wetlands as it is. But as you can imagine, because we're asking for something new, we didn't want it to have this discussion when you have all this abutters within 300 feet and you guys just heard this the first time. So I wanted to make sure that you understood where I was coming from, that's all.
Well, I mean, it's no farther from the well than the current well, right?
The two wells are further away, yes, they are separate, but what's happening is that the existing well is close to the 25 feet from the wetlands, and it's just but the other thing is they put the well at the time, but the well is at the edge of the driveway. So if we try to put the well 25 feet away from the wetlands, we're gonna be inside the driveway, and now I have to ask for a variance to be less than 5 feet from the driveway. So what we were looking at is practicality. What would be the best thing for the site? Imagine if you own the property and you live there, would you want to have a well right next to the driveway with a possibility of being hit because of snow maintenance or people driving in and out? We had to pick one of the variances, and we thought this would be the best.
Well, but it sounds like this is a good compromise given the property.
So I would agree, but the one thing I feel uncertain about is that I'm not familiar with this regulation and I'm not familiar with the rationale for it, and there may not be any valid rationale anymore, but I don't feel as if I know that. And, Steve,
Intuitively, if you have surface water, it's not percolating down at 200 and 300 feet.
right, it's not gonna
Yes.
get into the well
So
because,
it's likelihood of it getting into the well seems remote unless someone has evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how this 25-foot reg came about
yeah,
and whether it has any meaning.
yeah,
Well, I think it's probably from an older time when you could have contamination from the wetlands into the well itself, right? You could have groundwater.
If your well was shallow,
Well, right, but if you didn't have a good sealed casing, you could have groundwater leaking if the height of the well casing above the ground was low enough, you could have water getting in and seeping into the well. I mean, that's the only thing I can really think of.
The one thing that I can suggest would be that they were trying to protect the wetlands, not protect the well. Because in order for you to go and drill a well, you had to go with heavy machinery, go next to the wetlands or inside the wetlands, put a well rig up and now drill for the new well. And during that time, you would be harming the wetlands. So I believe that the reason why that is there is just mostly to protect the wetlands rather than protect the well. You see what I'm saying?
that
So
seems like,
in order for you to construct the well, you have to go into the wetlands. So they kind of trying to stop you to go within that. It used to be the town of Dover had a 25. So I have been coming in front of Conservation Commission since 2004. So it used to be the town of Dover had a 25-foot no disturbance. So when I came in 2004, the board used to tell the homeowners, when someone would ask, what is this 25 no disturbance? Their answer was 25 feet in Dover means no touch. What part of no touch you don't get? We don't want you to do anything within 25 feet. 25 feet, no disturbance is no touch. That's what it is. So that's how they have interpreted. Now Conservation Commission has gone a step beyond, and that no touch is 50 feet. So we are going to be going through conservation for their approvals also. But as part of the process is, the permit has to be, we have to ask for a variance from your regulations at the same time.
Yeah,
We will ask for a variance from conservation also.
I've been doing a few searches online and it does look like it really is, it's concerned about groundwater contamination, which makes sense. Having drilled 2 wells in Dover myself, but I think this is probably a well-engineered well that we don't have to worry very much.
Okay, so if you guys are okay, I'll move forward and send the notifications to the homeowners, and I'll see you officially on the 13th again.
Yeah, so just for the board's understanding, Artie has to notify abutters in order for this to be, a formal variance request. So he's gonna do that before we convene again in January. So we can't give any kind of formal approval on the variance today. So any decision you guys make or anything we decide on would kind of be more of just an informal thing, if that makes sense. Artie still has to go through the formal procedure. So idea would be he's going to notify abutters. Abutters would have a chance to come to the next meeting and speak if they wish. And then at that meeting, we can have a formal vote on it.
and when will you talk to the Conservation Commission, Artie?
I'm going to send the notification at the same time. Conservation Commission, usually they take close to 4 weeks for anything to be done. So my expectation would be middle of January, if not end of January, is when they're gonna review our case.
So I guess if you
Oh.
could summarize our discussion, we think it's a reasonable approach to take to this situation. Steve?
Well, I don't have any reservation about you moving forward, Artie. But the board should reserve the right to find out more about this 25-foot regulation to weigh in further.
Of
Yes.
course, of
Yes.
course. Okay.
Go ahead, Artie. Were you gonna say something?
That works for us. I mean, again, the whole lot, we don't come in front of Board of Health with variances. To tell you the truth, is in 5 years, this is the first time that I'm coming now. So in front of Conservation Commission, every other meeting, we have to ask for a variance to their regulations. So it's uncharted territory as far as Board of Health is concerned. So that's why I figure out, come in front of you so that you guys understood what's going on. And Jason can certainly look into the, if there are any issues, but the way I see it is, something got to give from your regulations, and this was the most logical one.
And we can do some research about the regulation.
Sure.
So I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm hearing echoes and so forth. Is anybody else hearing that as well?
Yes.
Is anyone logged on their phone at the same time or no? All right, I have no ideas about how to solve that.
Just try and be muted if you're not speaking at the time is all.
That's a great idea. Okay, thank you, Artie.
Yeah, so
Thank you, guys.
we'll just table it until January for now.
Yeah, we'll see you
January
in
13th.
January.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Appreciate it.
and Artie, I'm assuming if you learn anything new and different, you'll let Jason know before January.
Of course,
Yes.
of course, of course.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks for
Have a good
coming.
night. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Artie.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
All righty, shall we go to our minutes? The first one is October 9th. Does anyone have any proposals? Does anyone want to have them up on the screen, or have you reviewed them and do you feel like we can approve? I have no changes to suggest.
I've reviewed them and I'm fine too. I think Suzanne did a nice job.
Steve?
I just reviewed them in the last hour. They're fine, and I move that we approve them.
Second,
All in favor? I, Kay Peterson.
I, John Quackenbush.
And I, Stephen Kruskow.
Great. Moving on to November 4th. I again have no suggested changes.
I have none either.
Nor do I. I move that we approve those.
Second,
All in favor? I, Kay Peterson.
I, John Quackenbush.
I, Stephen Kruskow.
Great.
You're doing
Okay.
well, Suzanne.
Okay, should we just talk about procedure for minutes while we're on the
Yeah.
topic of minutes?
Suzanne, do you want to talk about that, or do you, Jason?
Yeah, I can. So this was something you had mentioned last meeting, if you recall. So I put it on for this agenda.
Yeah,
Just want to come up with a definitive plan going forward, just so we can, be as quick and efficient as possible with these, and also, abiding by what we need to abide by legally. So whatever we did for this meeting seemed to work out fairly well. So, are we okay with just everyone does their own independent review, and any corrections you may have, you just come to the meeting with them, or what do you guys think?
I'm fine with that. I think that makes sense.
I'm fine with it because Suzanne's minutes are so good, there's very little to change. And if there were a lot to change, it would be quite a burden to have to do that all in the meeting. But I think given given the quality of the minutes that we're likely to have very few changes and we can just bring them up here. Steve, what do you think?
I'm fine with the way we are currently operating.
Great. All right, yeah, let's keep rolling with that then. That was easy. And
just-
also too, I guess for what it's worth, it's one less thing for Suzanne to worry about. Because I know in between meetings she's trying to track down everyone's corrections and all that stuff. So makes it a little bit easier on her as well. So
Yeah.
we'll roll with this format going forward.
And just to review, if there weren't an open meeting law, we could all go in and do edits in Drive of Suzanne's draft. And we could look at each other's comments and we could, make suggestions and changes, but Felicia has told me that would be a violation of the open meeting law for us to edit toss in our edits and converse on Google Drive about the minutes, so that obviously is not going to work then.
Yeah, so this is the safest, easiest way, so we'll just stick with it.
Okay, good. Alrighty, so should we move on? Jason, are you going to talk about number 5, the Aquarian letter?
Yeah, I guess I should, huh?
Guess so.
Unless you guys want to skip it. No, we can talk about it. Yes, so the now infamous Aquarian letter that was sent out a few weeks ago to I don't know if it went out to all their customers, but it went out to a large portion of them. Has everyone seen the letter I'm referring to?
Yes.
Gist is we do have a copy of the letter on the drive that we uploaded for you guys. But the gist is it says your home may or may not be serviced by a line containing lead. It's just something they're required to do as part of a new EPA regulation. Something that just came to fruition the last year or so. So letter went out to all their customers, or like I said, a lot of their customers. So naturally, this prompted a lot of phone calls to our office. So the reason why I wanted to put this on the agenda is, what, like I said, we're getting calls about it. So I just wanted to be sure that we're all in sync and giving people correct information and recommendations as to how to handle this information. Go ahead, Steve.
I think we need a fact page for people to refer to that covers 95% of the potential questions. I don't see the town providing that, and someone should.
It's a great suggestion, Steve.
Suzanne, I know you've talked to a couple of the people who have called the office. Is there anything that you wanted to say or add about it?
Yeah, so after I had received our first phone call, I had called Aquarian just to see why they were referring people to us, because when I had asked Jason about it, he said that that's something that is sort of out of our purview. So I had called to ask them about it, and I actually have what they wrote to me written down. But they explained that the original letter that they had sent out had instructed people to contact their local Board of Health, and it was then redone so that it said the State Board of Health. And just because we don't monitor the public drinking water and we don't test wells, it's sort of out of our purview. And if they gave me numbers in case people were calling about, one of the things that the letter was talking about was testing your child's blood for lead. So they gave me a number that I could give to people if that was what they were calling about. And then if they had any questions about the letter itself, then they also gave me a number for people to call so that if they had more specific questions, they could talk to somebody that worked for the company.
How many calls have we gotten approximately?
I'd say 3 at the most. Unless I've been out of the office and missed a couple of them, Suzanne, but 2 or
Oh.
3 at the most, I think.
And are they all people who got the letter that initially said to call the Board of Health rather than the DEP? We don't know that probably, do we?
Most of them just called saying I got this letter and it said to call you on it.
I see.
Yeah, so Suzanne brought up a great point. One of the original things they sent out had a typo in it that's saying to contact your local Board of Health, which was not accurate. So I think that's what prompted at least, a couple of the calls.
Hmm.
But I mean, either way, so Suzanne has a little cheat sheet going next to her desk that, if anyone calls with these questions, she knows where to send them or what information to give them. So that's kind of been helpful. She actually picked up the phone and called Aquarian after one of the phone calls just to kind of talk with them and make sure we were on the same page with them. So I don't know if we'll get more phone calls. I'm sure we probably will. So I just wanted to be prepared for when we did.
So, replacing those pipe, if I remember the letter correctly, replacing those pipes becomes the homeowner's responsibility. Is that correct?
It's a shared responsibility where Aquarian picks up some of the cost, but basically the homeowner has responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone was asking me about, whether the town is going to be able to help people out, which again doesn't seem like something we're in a position to do given our budget.
Well, I'm just wondering in a larger context whether Kay or Jason had a conversation subsequent to our last meeting with Mike about what the Board of Health purview might be regarding water.
We have not yet. We're planning to do that this month, though, to meet with him. Because I agree that that's the next step in terms of thinking about the bigger picture.
And I know I looked to see if there were any kind of state grants or programs, and I was not able to find anything, unfortunately.
So can we go back to this question about an FAQ? What, Steve?
It's called mass lottery.
Actually, that's a great proposal for the town. Don't put this in the minutes, Suzanne. But about the FAQ idea,
Yeah. I think it's just being proactive.
yeah, but I would think that Aquarian is the entity that should create the FAQ sheet, don't you?
I do, but what's the odds of they're doing it?
I don't know. I think it's hard for us to do an FAQ sheet about something that's not in our purview. We're not going to be up to date on what's happening at Aquarian, and I think if there's going to be one, that they ought to do it, and it seems very reasonable to me that we call them up and ask them to prepare something, since we're getting calls.
Sure, but if there's not the full commitment on their part to do so, there still would be a vacuum, which would avail some of our townspeople to have the information available, that sort of information available.
Yeah, it's just that for us to do an FAQ sheet without us being the entity that's responsible for dealing with this is very difficult. And then if we create one, then how frequently are we going to update it, and how are we going to get the information to update it when this is really Aquarian's thing? It's not, local boards of health don't have jurisdiction over private wells. So I can see it I can see it becoming out of date and impossible for us to keep up. You know, the devil's in the details with that kind of thing.
Well, you could argue that lead poisoning in children is something that maybe local boards of health should be very sensitive to and take at least some responsibility for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the difficult thing though is we don't have any data at all about what the lead levels are. Right, if any, in the houses that are affected.
Yeah, I'd be curious if we could figure out some way of subsidizing testing for that in some houses at the same time that we're doing PFAS, such that we get some useful information in terms of how serious the problem is and whether to proceed with trying to do something about it.
How often are we seeing water test results at the Board of Health? How many times a year would you say we're getting reports?
What do you mean, like for high levels of lead?
Well, just getting test reports. It's every time there's a property changes hands, right?
Yeah,
then-
I mean, over the course of the year, probably say we get 100 or so, maybe.
And I think you said recently that you hardly ever see an elevated lead level in the water in those reports. Is that correct?
I'm not even sure I ever have. Maybe once or twice at the most.
Mhm.
How often have they tested for it?
I
I
think
mean,
every
only time you're required to do any type of testing is for a home sale or for a new well. So,
Does that include lead?
oh yeah, yep.
Well, maybe it's less of a problem than I've been led to believe.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Um,
Nicely done, Kay. It took me a while.
Dan can point that one out in the get that one into the minutes. Well, it would be, I wish we had a database of all our water test results. But it would be, Jason, if you ever see an elevated lead level, will you let us all know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Once we, so Suzanne's and Linda have been working on digitizing a lot of our files. Maybe this is pie in the sky, but hopefully one day you could do a search and look for all water test results in the past 5 years or whatever, you know, and pull them up. Does that make sense to think we could do that with?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that's very, very realistic.
If Anya were going to stick around, that would be a great project for her. Actually, it'd be great for you, Suzanne, to take a look at our sometime. We could talk about that. All right. So anything else about this for now? Shall we resolve to contact Aquarian to ask them to do an FAQ sheet that we could then pass out?
Yeah.
That's a great idea, Kay.
All right. All right, we're done with number 6. We're done with number 7. Ready for number 8, Jason?
Sure.
PFAS?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update on this. I know we've been talking about it a lot. This is also another topic we've been getting phone calls about. So I haven't seen you guys since I went to the MHOA conference in Springfield. That was around Veterans Day, so it was right after our last meeting. And I made it a point to go to one of the presentations they did was a PFAS presentation. It was done by a gentleman right from Mass DEP, so right from the horse's mouth, if you will. I had very high hopes. I was hoping it would answer a lot of our questions, but I guess to sum it up, it really didn't change a whole lot. They have a fairly good grasp of how to handle it in terms of public water, but in terms of private drinking water, there really doesn't seem to be any kind of clear answer at this point. They do have a nice FAQ sheet that I was able to find, so that was somewhat helpful. But I guess the one big thing I learned is if a homeowner tests for PFAS and the sum of the 6, PFAS chemicals totals more than 20 parts per trillion, technically the homeowner is required to report that to Mass DEP. It essentially becomes a reportable, I'm not sure what the exact terminology is, like a reportable incident. So it's tricky because my read on that, maybe your guys' read is different. You're almost setting it up so you're penalizing people for testing, which I don't know about you guys, but I'd really rather not do that. That doesn't seem right to me. So I guess we kind of have to be careful at how we're going to approach this. If we're really going to be pushing for people to test, they should know that if they exceed a certain requirement, then they now all of a sudden become obligated to report. So it's just kind of it becomes a very tricky situation. Go ahead, Steve.
So most people, if they knew that, wouldn't test.
Correct.
Because they
only
go into the oh, sorry.
The workaround that I see is that you test off public drill sites that we already have in place. And that haven't been tested, I don't think, in the last couple of years for anything. But at least those would be on public properties and wouldn't necessarily scandalize individual homeowners. But if we care about this enough to do that, that would be the workaround.
Wouldn't that though raise concerns about the abutters?
It would. It would.
And yeah, and the question is, if there were an elevated level, what would the Board of Health's response be? A public education campaign in which I don't know.
I think we have to tell people how you ameliorate that issue with home filtration. Or maybe that advice is available out there in such a way that people can follow it very easily. But I don't think anybody wants to light up when they're trying to sell their property. And that was one of the ways they would be lit up.
Yeah, and I think that testing on public land might create similar problems for people. Yeah. Jason once talked about a strategy which is encouraging people to install reverse osmosis filters at the kitchen sink without having a test result. It's just another way of thinking of approaching the problem.
Yeah, that's okay. That was one of my early thoughts with this whole PFAS thing. Like, why not just skip the expensive testing, assume you have it, whatever the level may be, and just install some type of filtration system.
Because it didn't address the shower or bath issue.
Well, I believe it's much less of a concern to get it on your skin versus ingesting it. You know what I mean? I think consuming it is the majority of the issue.
Is that well known? John?
Anya, I know you've been super into the PFAS research. I think that was one. I think you shared that with me, actually,
Yeah,
right?
it's the biggest risk is in ingesting it. So, what you're proposing makes sense. Do you know how much a reverse osmosis filter cost for under the sink? Probably a couple $100.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Basically, the cost of testing, or
Yes.
less than the cost of testing.
Yes.
I would say I don't feel we're ready to make a recommendation like this, but I think
Definitely
it's
not.
something to stew about for a while. There's so many unanswered questions here, and it's such a nascent
Yeah.
area. Yes, Steve.
Well, one of the political issues of it is that perhaps we should discuss with our new state rep or our state senator the requirement that it has to be publicly reported, people's private testing.
Yeah,
Because
that's an interesting idea.
it would change the dynamics, certainly, if that requirement wasn't there.
Jason, did the person speaking talk about why the DEP requires that, and also what their response is if they receive a positive result from a private well?
That's a great question. My read on it was, if someone has levels that are that high, it's viewed as they're the issue. So then it becomes a matter of it's on them to remediate.
On them, the homeowner.
Yes, on the
Yeah.
property owner.
But then you wonder why the DEP wants the information. What are they doing with it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, so when I heard that certainly changes things for us. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I had no knowledge of that. I had just learned that for the first time that day. So
Well,
I've never.
isn't it the same sort of thing for lead? If you test your house for lead and discover it, you have to report it.
I don't know. Is that true?
not that I'm aware of. This PFAS thing kind of falls into the category of like it's almost like similar to if you have a big fuel spill incident,
Yeah.
it becomes like a reportable event type thing, if that makes sense.
Jason, I would like to, do you have the contact information for the person who spoke at the meeting?
I do.
I'd love to give him a call and find out, get some more information about the rationale and the DEP response to these levels. It really is a disincentive.
Just the
All
bike
right.
bell.
Say it again, John.
I keep hearing a bicycle bell. Must be somebody's phone.
Not mine. All right, anything else about PFAS tonight? All right, next item on the agenda is Zoom bombing.
Yeah, why don't I just speak about this quick, if you guys don't mind. So this seems to be another hot topic. I figured we'd put it on the agenda and just chat quick about it. Just kind of have a plan in place, I guess, if we ever run into that occurrence. And I guess one of the big things is we had an all staff meeting last week, which we do about once a year, where everyone gets together in the Great Hall. And town administrator just kind of goes through any updates or anything that needs to be shared amongst the group. And Zoom bombing was actually one of the things that we talked about. So what they're going to be doing with all the board Zoom accounts is we're going to have the option to set it up a little differently than we normally set it up. I believe the correct term is we would do webinar format, meaning so you guys as a panel would be designated as speakers, and no one else is allowed to speak or be heard or anything unless somebody gives them permission to do so. So idea is you can really police and regulate any shenanigans that may be happening. So it would really just be a matter of figuring out how to do that. I don't know if you have experience with leading something like that, Kay, or maybe it's something Suzanne might be able to help us out with. I know Assistant Town Administrator said he was willing to help people kind of just learn this process and get set up with it. So that's an option. So just something to think about for going forward. I like the idea of that setup. Steve?
There's some background to this. I don't know how much we want to go into it that prompted that topic at the meeting. And that is that a number of board meetings and perhaps even selectmen meetings have been Zoom bombed over the last year or two. And when the meetings, recordings of those meetings were uploaded to our YouTube site, they weren't scrubbed 100%. And some of the Zoom bombings appeared on YouTube, which caused YouTube to take away the town's channel. And the town has since developed a workaround that restored access to the tapes of our meetings, though not all of them just yet, but they will be, that allows them to have a YouTube presence. But the number of Zoom bombings had gone up rather dramatically in the last couple of years, and we weren't 100% efficient in scrubbing them. So don't be surprised if at some point there will be further attempts, since people were successful in some of their attempts the last couple of years.
So is everyone in favor of moving to the webinar format?
I don't see any downside, but we don't know very much about it. John?
I've been in webinars in the past. I've never run one, but I think it's worth a try. And my one concern was just whether or not we could actually give people the opportunity to speak if they want to speak. But I think it does make sense. So we don't want the town to lose its ability to be able to post the meetings on YouTube.
So maybe we should take Chris's offer and get trained in this. I bet it's not too complicated.
No, it should be easy enough.
Famous last words.
Maybe a few bumps, but nobody's better at working through bumps than this group is. So
I'm glad you have so much faith in it.
All right. Okay. So is there any old business that people want to bring up? Anything else?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure that people who try to access data for the shots that they got, vaccinations at our last clinic, are successful all the time. I heard there was a glitch.
Can you tell us about the glitch?
I can't, but perhaps Jason can.
this is actually the first I've heard of this.
Well, okay, we addressed this in a previous meeting, this issue. And that's why it's old business. But if there's no problem, that's great.
They should have been uploaded to the state's records, record keeping, shouldn't it?
Yeah, to MIA,
I-
MIS.
At some point, could we just have a few people who receive vaccinations at that particular day check to see how well everything went in terms of the record keeping?
I'm not in favor of that unless we're aware that there's a specific problem. We've never checked in the past when we've done a vaccine clinic, and we've never had a problem. And it seems like it doesn't seem like a good use of our time if we're not aware of a problem. We're sort of going fishing, and I don't see a point.
Well, was it you, Suzanne, who verified with somebody?
Yeah, somebody had called wanting the information for their primary care doctor, and I had told them to give the pharmacy a call and then call me back once they had done that, and they said they had called me back and told me that they were going to receive their test results from the pharmacy. I don't know if it was online or in the mail, but they were able to successfully access them.
Well, let's table the issue for the time being.
Is there any other old business? All right. So, adjournment?
I'm
Motion
happy
to
to move
adjourn?
that we adjourn.
Second.
I'm still trying to figure out who has the bicycle bell, but
You're still hearing it, John?
yes.
That's the good humor, man.
Could be coming from something else. Who knows? Or, maybe I get hit in the head. Could.
Yeah.
If I could, real quick, guys, before everyone jumps off, tomorrow is Suzanne's birthday, so I just wanted to say happy birthday to her. And I believe Thursday is Anya's last day, so I just want to let her know how appreciative we are of all her help. She's been tremendous. Wish her nothing but the best going forward. Anya, you will always have me as a reference, for sure. So as you're trying to figure out your next steps, feel free to put me down for whatever you may need.
We really appreciate your help.
What are your plans, Anya?
So next semester, I'm going to be a part-time student taking only 2 classes. So I'm hoping to get into the workforce then.
And where are you studying again?
Regis College.
Oh, okay.
And are you graduating in May?
I am, yes.
Great.
Well, good luck and congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks again.
And happy birthday, Suzanne.
Thank you.
21 only comes once, so. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Night.